There comes a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and finally ask themselves one question: is this really all I'm capable of? And in that moment, the truth hits you. You've been living far below your potential, accepting far less than what you're truly worthy of. Not because you're weak, but because you forgot who you are. Today, that ends. You deserve more, and it's time you stop settling for anything less. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Most people chase freedom as if it's something that magically appears when life gets easier, when circumstances improve, or when motivation shows up at the perfect moment. But true freedom doesn't come from comfort, luck, or waiting for the right time. It comes from mastering yourself. It comes from building the internal strength to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline is not a restriction. It's liberation. It frees you from the chaos of your impulses, the instability of your moods, and the limitations of a life ruled by short-term pleasures. Discipline is the quiet force that separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. When you have discipline, you don't depend on motivation because motivation is unreliable. It disappears the moment life becomes difficult. Motivation whispers, discipline commands. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is a decision. People who rely on motivation are constantly in a cycle of starting, stopping, restarting, and giving up. But those who rely on discipline simply continue. They don't negotiate with their mind, they don't wait for inspiration, and they don't ask themselves whether they feel like it. They just act. And because they act consistently, their progress compounds while others remain stagnant. Without discipline, emotions become the dictator of your life. You're tired, so you don't work. You're stressed, so you quit. You're uncomfortable, so you avoid the action that would change your life. When emotions rule you, you settle for the easiest path, the safest option, the most convenient excuse. But convenience is the thief of greatness. The path of least resistance leads directly to regret. Emotions are temporary, yet they have the power to sabotage your future if you allow them. Discipline is the shield that protects your goals from the unpredictability of your feelings. With discipline, you replace excuses with execution and weakness with willpower. Every achievement you admire, every success story you respect is built on the backbone of discipline. Success is not random. It's engineered through daily habits executed with intention and consistency. You don't become powerful by accident. You become powerful through repeated acts of self-control. Discipline forces you to show up. It trains your mind to resist distraction, push through fatigue, ignore doubt, and silence that inner voice that always tries to pull you back into comfort. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But it is the most potent tool you possess if you want to build a life that reflects your true potential. Freedom, contrary to popular belief, does not come from doing whatever you want. Freedom comes from earning the right to choose. When you are disciplined financially, physically, mentally, you create options. You free yourself from the chains of debt, the grip of bad habits, the prison of an unhealthy body, and the trap of a weak mindset. Discipline gives you control. You control your time, your actions, your direction. You are no longer pushed around by cravings, distractions, laziness, or fear. You operate from intention, not impulse. But discipline is not something you magically wake up with. It's built through repetition, through honoring your commitments, especially when it's inconvenient. It's forged in moments when your excuses are the loudest, but your purpose is louder. Discipline grows when you push yourself one more step, one more rep, one more page, one more hour. Every time you choose effort over comfort, you strengthen your inner foundation. Over time, discipline stops being something you force. It becomes who you are. It becomes automatic. It becomes instinct. You must understand that emotions are not your enemy, but they cannot be your leader. Your emotions should inform you, not control you. Feel them, acknowledge them, but don't bow to them. Discipline allows you to observe your feelings without surrendering to them. You can feel tired and still work. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel doubt and still move forward. That is freedom, the ability to choose your actions independent of your emotional state. Most people never experience that level of freedom because they never master discipline. They remain trapped in the cycle of wanting more but doing less. They talk about change but stay loyal to their limitations. They desire success but refuse the daily habits that produce it. They're pulled around by impulses like a puppet on strings, but you are not meant to live as a slave to your emotions. You are meant to lead yourself. You are meant to command your mind, not be commanded by it. Discipline is the bridge between the life you have and the life you want. It is the price of admission to greatness. Without it, your potential stays locked inside you, untouched and unused. With it, you unlock a version of yourself that you may not even believe exists yet. A version that is stronger, sharper, more focused, more resilient, and more capable than you ever imagined. Discipline reveals your true power. The truth is this: freedom is earned, freedom is built. Freedom is the result of consistent action taken in alignment with your goals, not your moods. When you live with discipline, you no longer fear challenges. They become fuel. You no longer run from responsibility. You embrace it. You no longer drift through life. You take command of it. And when you can command yourself, nothing outside of you can control you. If you want to experience freedom, real freedom, you must embrace discipline. Not tomorrow. Not when life becomes easier. Now. Because the longer you wait, the deeper you sink into a life ruled by impulse and emotion. But the moment you choose discipline, you choose strength. You choose progress. You choose freedom. And from that moment forward, life begins to expand. You rise, you grow, you evolve, and you finally become the person you were always meant to be. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Every person wants to feel in control of their life, yet most spend every day being controlled by the impulses that rise and fall within them. One moment they're inspired, the next moment they're distracted. One moment they feel powerful, and the next they're defeated by simple discomfort. Emotions shift like the weather, unpredictable, unstable, and impossible to rely on. When your life is ruled by them, you live in constant chaos, pulled in 100 directions with no solid ground beneath your feet. Discipline is what anchors you. Discipline creates order from the emotional storms inside you. People often misunderstand discipline, believing it's something harsh, rigid, or restrictive. But discipline is the greatest gift you could ever give yourself. It is not a cage. It is a key that unlocks stability, strength, and clarity. When you are disciplined, you gain the freedom to move toward your goals without being derailed by temporary feelings. You gain the freedom to rise above stress, excuses, and momentary discomfort. Discipline helps you operate from logic rather than impulse, from purpose rather than emotion. Look at any area of life: your health, finances, relationships, work, or personal development. Without discipline, each of these collapses. People overspend because it feels good in the moment. They skip workouts because the bed feels warm. They lose control of their temper because anger feels justified. They procrastinate because distraction feels easier. Emotions push them around like leaves in the wind. But with discipline, you rise above the temptation of the moment. Discipline whispers, do it anyway. And that simple shift, acting despite how you feel, creates a life defined by progress rather than regret. Discipline is the ability to choose your actions independent of your emotional state. It is the ability to stay committed to your long-term vision even when your short-term feelings scream for comfort. When you build discipline, you build a life where your future self is always served, not sacrificed. You stop chasing what feels good now and start building what will feel incredible later. You develop the power to delay gratification, which is one of the strongest predictors of lifelong success. The reason discipline creates freedom is because it gives you control. It puts you in the driver's seat of your life. Without discipline, you respond to the world in a reactive state, always adjusting to discomfort, avoiding challenges, and giving in to impulses. But with discipline, you become proactive. You decide where your energy goes. You decide what matters. You decide the standard you live by, not your moods. When you are disciplined, your actions no longer fluctuate with your emotions. This consistency compounds. Every disciplined habit you build functions like a seed planted, small in the moment, but growing into something massive over time. Discipline multiplies. It turns small actions into big results. It turns daily repetition into mastery. It turns ordinary people into unstoppable forces. Emotion-based people fall apart when things get tough. Discipline-based people get sharper. Emotion-based people wait for the right moment. Discipline-based people create the moment. Emotion-based people give up when they feel discouraged. Discipline-based people push forward because their commitment is stronger than their mood. Your feelings will always tempt you to do what is easy. Discipline pushes you to do what is necessary. Your feelings will always find reasons to quit. Discipline finds reasons to continue. Your feelings will call you back to comfort. Discipline calls you forward into growth. True discipline is not about punishing yourself. It's about training yourself. It's the process of shaping your mind to work for you instead of against you. You become someone who follows through, someone who keeps promises made to themselves, someone who does not crumble under pressure, someone who understands that self-control is the highest form of power. Think of the times your emotions have controlled you, moments of anger you regret, moments of fear that held you back, moments of laziness that cost you opportunities. Now imagine a version of you that doesn't bend to those emotions anymore, a version that feels fear but acts with courage, a version that feels doubt but still moves forward, a version that feels tired but completes the task anyway. That version is built through discipline. When you lead with discipline, your confidence rises, not because someone praises you, but because you prove to yourself that you can depend on your own actions. Confidence is not built from external validation. It is built from internal integrity. Every time you show discipline, you strengthen that integrity. You strengthen your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone powerful, capable, and in control. Discipline turns you into someone who commands their life, someone who doesn't crumble under stress, someone who doesn't chase short-term pleasure, someone who can endure discomfort for the sake of growth. That is real freedom, the freedom to build the life you want without being held hostage by the emotions that try to sabotage it. If you want success, discipline is non-negotiable. If you want peace, discipline is essential. If you want control, discipline is the path. Freedom is earned, and discipline is the currency. When you master discipline, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you unlock a life that emotions alone could never give you. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Most people underestimate just how powerful this truth is. They move through life believing they are making choices, when in reality, their emotions are doing the choosing for them. They think they are deciding to skip the gym, deciding to oversleep, deciding to procrastinate, deciding to give up when things get hard. But these are not choices. They are emotional impulses disguised as decisions. When your emotions lead, your life becomes a cycle of inconsistency, regret, and unrealized potential. Discipline is the only force strong enough to break that cycle. Emotions are natural, but they are not reliable. They shift based on the environment, your energy levels, your fears, your insecurities, and even minor inconveniences. If your entire life is governed by something that changes every hour, then the direction of your life will always be unstable. Discipline gives you a stable center, a mental anchor that keeps you grounded, regardless of how you feel in the moment. When you're disciplined, your actions no longer fluctuate with your emotional storms. You move with intention. You move with purpose. You move with control. People who lack discipline often feel trapped, overwhelmed, and powerless. But they don't realize the prison they're living in is self-built. The walls are made of excuses. The bars are made of fear, and the chains are made of emotions they refuse to master. One day they feel motivated and productive. The next day they fall apart. One week they're committed to their goals. The next week they're back to old habits. This creates mental chaos, a life full of starts and stops. But when discipline enters the picture, everything changes. Discipline removes the dependency on mood. It transforms your life from reactive to proactive. Discipline is the ability to act according to your values, not your impulses. It's choosing to do the work even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing consistency over comfort. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. This does not mean ignoring emotions. Emotion is part of the human experience, but discipline allows you to feel emotions without surrendering to them. You can feel tired and still show up. You can feel nervous and still take action. You can feel discouraged and still keep pushing. That is true power. When discipline becomes your foundation, you gain a level of freedom most people never experience. You gain financial freedom because you no longer waste your money on emotional spending. You gain physical freedom because your disciplined habits build strength, health, and energy. You gain mental freedom because you stop being controlled by urges, cravings, and impulses. You gain emotional freedom because you don't react uncontrolled, you respond with intention. You gain life freedom because you stop drifting and start directing your path. The irony is that people believe discipline restricts them, but the real restriction comes from lacking discipline. Think about it. When you're controlled by emotions, you can't choose your actions. You react to them. When you're controlled by emotions, you can't commit to goals. You quit when it gets uncomfortable. When you're controlled by emotions, you can't stay consistent. You follow whatever feels good in the moment. That's not freedom. That's slavery to impulse. Discipline, on the other hand, builds your future one decision at a time. It strengthens your mind. It hardens your resolve. It reshapes your identity. Every disciplined action is like a brick laid in the foundation of the life you're trying to build. Over time, the structure becomes unshakable. You develop trust in yourself. You develop respect for yourself. You develop pride in the daily battles you win against your weaker impulses. Discipline also forces you to confront your excuses. Emotions create excuses. Discipline destroys them. When you rely on emotions, you'll always find reasons to quit. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. It's too hard. I'll do it tomorrow. These excuses feel comforting, but they slowly drain your potential. Discipline gives you the power to silence that inner voice. It gives you the ability to override your feelings with your goals. And every time you choose discipline over emotion, you weaken the grip that complacency has on your life. Another hidden benefit of discipline is clarity. When you live by emotions, your mind is constantly cluttered. You're always second guessing, always stressed, always pulled in different directions. But discipline simplifies your mental world. It creates order. You wake up knowing what you need to do. You create routines that guide your day. You eliminate distractions. You commit to habits that build competence and confidence. That clarity is freedom in its purest form. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It's the ability to become who you want. And you cannot become that person while being controlled by temporary feelings. You cannot rise while being chained to laziness, fear, or self-doubt. You cannot grow while living reactively. You must choose discipline. You must train it, practice it, strengthen it until it becomes your default operating system. The truth is simple. The person who masters discipline masters life. They become unstoppable. They become consistent. They become someone who doesn't quit, someone who doesn't fold, someone who doesn't surrender to weakness. And that is the person who creates freedom, freedom from regret, freedom from inconsistency, freedom from emotional chaos, and freedom from the life they once felt trapped in. Discipline is the foundation of everything you want: success, peace, power, confidence, and freedom. Without it, you rely on emotions, and emotions, when untrained, will always lead you away from greatness. But when discipline becomes your guide, freedom becomes your reward. In the end, everything you seek, success, confidence, peace, power, fulfillment, comes down to one thing: whether you choose discipline or surrender to your emotions. Your emotions may be loud, unpredictable, and persuasive, but they cannot build the life you dream of. They can only keep you comfortable, and comfort is where most dreams quietly die. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It's unwavering. It's the force that takes your potential from something imagined to something real. The moment you commit to disciplined action, you step into a life where you direct your path instead of being dragged by your impulses. When you look back at your life years from now, the difference between who you became and who you could have been will be determined by how often you chose discipline over emotion. Every small choice compounds. Every act of self-control sharpens your identity. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you rewrite the story of what you're capable of. You stop living like a hostage to your moods and start living as the architect of your future. That is the real reward of discipline, not the trophies, not the applause, not the external validation, but the internal freedom that comes from knowing you control yourself. You must understand that freedom is not something the world hands you. Freedom is something you earn through the daily battles you win within yourself. It's the freedom to trust your own word, the freedom to follow through, the freedom to walk with confidence because you know every inch of progress was carved out by your own discipline. Most people never experience this level of freedom because they choose the illusion of comfort over the reality of growth. But the moment you decide that discipline is your standard, your life expands beyond anything your emotions could have ever led you to. So as you walk forward from this moment, carry this truth with you. Discipline is the strongest form of self-respect. It is the root of all transformation, the foundation of all achievement, and the doorway to the life you deserve. Without it, you remain controlled by feelings that shift with the wind. With it, you break free from that chaos and rise into your potential with clarity, purpose, and unstoppable momentum. Choose discipline, and you choose freedom. Choose discipline, and you choose greatness. Choose discipline, and you finally become the person you were always meant to be. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your energy to this message. If this speech sparks something inside you, remember, it's your responsibility to keep that fire alive. Your future is built by what you do after this video ends, not just by what you heard today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your growth, and I appreciate your commitment to becoming the strongest version of yourself. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and never settle for less than you deserve. Until next time, thank you, take care, and goodbye.